Hi students, today we are going to discuss GS second chapter Animals and Plants. Third standard GS second chapter Animals and Plants. From the first chapter we discussed how the non-living things and the living things is different in some ways. How they are different in non-living things and the living things is different in ways. That means we know living things can move and the living things need food to grow and living things breathe and they can feel and also living thing can reproduce. So this chapter we are discussing how the plants and animals and plants, how they are different in their movements and their food, breathe and feel and reproduce. One by one point we are discussing. I already wrote all the points on the board so we can discuss it easily. So first point, we know living things can move, living things need food to grow and living things need breathe. That means living things do not live without breathing and living things feel and living things can reproduce. Okay, so we can discuss how the animal and plants is different in their own movement, food, breathe, feel and reproduce. First point is move. Animals can move. Animals can move in search of food. That means animal can move in search of food. They are moving one place to another place to get their food. Animals, they are moving one place to another place to get their food. They are searching their food. And how the plants? They are not moving. They are not moving. Most of the plants is fixed on the ground. It is simply that means from the first point movement, that is animals can move in search of food. Animal, they are moving in search of food. And how the plants? Plants, they are fixed on the ground. The first point is discussed. The second one is food. How they are getting food. That means animal, we already studied, we already understand the animal is searching their food. They are moving one place to another place for searching their food. That means animal, they are taking either plants or animal as their food. That means some of the animal is eating plants, some of the animal is eating other animals. So they are searching, they are moving one place to other place to search their own food. What is their food? That means maybe they are eating plants, maybe they are eating animal. And how the plants? Plants is preparing food themselves. Plants is preparing, plants already fixed on the ground and plants is preparing their food on their leaves by using sunlight, air and water. Plants is preparing their food on their leaves by using air, water and sunlight. And some of the non-green plants are there. Some of the non-green, they have no green color to their leaves. So that is non-green plants like mold and mushroom. They are getting their food from the rotten parts of animal or plants or other places. That means non-green plants get food from rotten parts. Only the non-green plants, they are not making food. They are taking the food from rotten parts. So we discussed 2 points, that is movement. Animal, they can move one place to another in search of food and the plants, they are fixed on the ground. And second point, what about the food? That means animal, they are eating plants or other animals. And how that is? That means plants, how that plants is making them? They are preparing. They are preparing their food by using air, water and sunlight. But non-green plants, they are getting the food from rotten parts. So we discussed already 2 points. The third one is breathe. Animal breathe through lungs, gills, air holes. Animals breathe through lungs, gills, air hole. That is human being and the big animal. Most of the big animals, they are using lungs. And the fish like fish is using their gills to breathe. They are living under the water, so they are using gills to breathe. Air holes, insects, butterfly. Such insect, they have some of the air holes that have on their own body. They have some air hole. They are using such air holes to breathe. So animal, they use lungs, gills, air holes to breathe. And what about the plants? Plants is using tiny pores on their leaves. Underside, that is under of the leaves, they have small tiny pores, tiny holes. Pores means tiny holes there on the leaves that we cannot be possible to see with our naked eyes. So necrise and so tiny pores on the leaves. They are taking the air inside through their tiny pores on the leaves. Clear? So we discussed the 3 points, that is movement. Animal can move in search of food. Plants cannot move one place to another. They are fixed on the ground. Second point is the animal eat plants or other animal, and plants they are preparing food themselves. Only non-green plants get food from the rotten plants. And breathe. Animal use lungs, gills, air holes. Plants they are using tiny pores on their leaves. And next one is feel. Thus animals feel. We know animals also have hungry, pain, such feelings. So animals have sense organs. Animals have sense organ as like eyes, nose, tongue, ear and skin. Such sense organs have. Animals have sense organ, they can feel. Animals have sense organ, they can feel. But in case of plants, they have no sense organ. They have some of the feelings, that means they are turning toward the sunlight, that is their own, we are considering their own feeling, but they have no sense organs to understand the smell, then the visuals, they cannot be possible to see, and so they have no sense organ. The plants have no sense organs, but animals have sense organs. So we discussed 4 points. One is their movement, that means animal is moving one place to another in search of food, but plants they are fixed on the ground. The second point it was how their food. The animal taking plants or other animal as their food, but plants they are making their own food. Only the non-green plants they are taking, they are getting the food from rotten parts. And how they breathe. Animal use lungs, gills or air hole to breathe, but plants they have tiny pores on, tiny holes on the leaves. They are using the tiny holes to breathe. Okay. Next, feel. That means animal have sense organ, but plants do not have sense organ. Then last point, reproduce. That means animals they are giving birth to young one, or they lay eggs. That means animal they give birth to young one, or they are lay eggs. Birds, snakes, some of the snakes they are laying eggs, and human beings, such animals they are giving birth to young one. That means how they are reproduce. That means animals they are giving birth to young one or lay eggs. And plants how they are reproduce. They can also reproduce through the seeds or stem or roots or leaves. Either they are producing seeds, that way baby plants come out from the seeds, or maybe baby plants will grow through the stems. They are cutting the stems, and we can some of the plants is like that, and the stems, roots and leaves. So they can also reproduce, but the difference way is that they are using roots, stem or seed or leaves to get babies. That means we discussed that 5 points, that is how their movement. That means animal move in search of food, and plants is not moving, they are fixed on the ground. And what about the food? That means animal eating plants or other animal, but plants is preparing food on their own leaves, but non-green plants is only getting food from the rotten parts. And the breathe, how they use. That means animal use lungs, gills, air holes to breathe. Animal use lungs, gills, air holes to breathe. That means air holes is butterflies, such insects are using air holes. Gills for fishes. Lungs is most of the big animals using lungs. And plants have tiny pores on the leaves. Tiny holes are there to get breathe. And how they feel. That means animal have sense organs to feel. That means animal have sense organ, but in case of plant there is no sense organ. There is no sense organs. And how they reproduce. That means animal give birth to young one, or they are lay eggs. And this is two way. And but plant they are using seeds, stem, roots or leaves to reproduce or to get the small baby plants. And we discussed how the plants and animal is different. How the plants are differ from each ways, and how the plants and animal differ from their movements, their food, their breathing system, and their sense organ, that means their feeling, and also their reproducing. The last one is to say in this chapter, animals and plants depends each other. Animals and plants depends each other. There is a balance in nature. We need a balance in nature. That means we need both plants and animals in nature in a proportionate amount. That is in a proportionate way. That means if the number of animals is increased, that will affect our forest. That will affect our plants. If the number of forest is reduced, that means if the number of forest is reduced, that will affect our animal also. They cannot live there. So there is a balance in nature. We need both the wild animal and we need both the plants and other animals in a proportionate way. That is our nature that is keeping our nature balance. So we need to protect both the wild animal and also plants. We cannot don't cut the trees, and if you are cutting, we need to plant more trees, and we want to protect our wildlife also. So this is the summary of our chapter. That means how the plants and animal is different in each way, how they are moving, what about their food, and how they are breathing, and how they feel, how they reproduce. So we understand they have difference between animals and plants. That means animals move in search of food and plants do not move. They are fixed around the ground. And in food, the animal eating plants or other animal, but plants they are preparing their own food. And breathing, their animal is using lungs, gills or air holes to breathe, but plants using the tiny pores on their leaves. And but about feeling, that means animal have sense organ, but plants do not have sense organs. And reproducing system, how that means animal they are give birth to young one or lay eggs, but in plants they are using seeds, stem, roots, such parts to get tiny plants. That means baby plants. Okay, and at last we understand we need a balance in nature. So we want to protect both wildlife and also both animal and plants. That means we do not cut trees and we do not do anything as harmful to the animals. Okay, hope all of you understand. Thank you.